Today we're going to make a beetroot and gorgonzola risotto. This is something that I once had at a restaurant in Italy, and so I really thought it was delicious. So I thought, let me retry making this at home. So the recipe has just kind of been my invention, so hopefully you'll like it. Okay, so what you will need for this recipe is a piece of gorgonzola, 2 cups of risotto rice, some beetroot. I use the beetroot in the supermarket that you often chop into salads, because unfortunately I can't find fresh beetroot at this time. A small onion, about a cup of chopped onion, chicken broth, 4.5 cups, half a cup of white wine, and 5 tablespoons of butter. You will also need a large heavy based pot to cook the risotto in, a smaller little pot to melt your gorgonzola, and thirdly, a pot for your stock. I am also going to be using my food processor to blend up the beetroot into a smooth puree. Okay, let's get started. To start, let's add 2 tablespoons of butter to your risotto pot and let that melt. I'm going to cut off the crust of my gorgonzola, cut the crust off neatly, and then put it in your pot that you're going to use to melt the gorgonzola and set it aside. We'll melt it at the last minute because we use it at the end. I always like to use a nice wooden spoon for my risotto for the pot. Let's get that butter melted. Smells delicious. Okay, add your onions and leave them to cook through until translucent. Off to a good start. Smells delicious. In Italy, we find this rice called Arborio that we use for risotto, because you can't use normal white rice because risotto is sticky. It's like clumpy rice, so the consistency needs to be different. Claude and Barley love risotto. I always make a big pot of risotto and think, well, it's enough for 2 meals. But they go back for more and back for more and back for more, and then I have nothing ever left over. Risotto, traditionally in Italy, would be the first plate of food, as they call the primo, and then after that you normally would have, if they eat traditionally, then they would have meat or cheese and veg afterwards. Next, you're going to add your rice and toast it slightly. Mix it around so it's a little bit glossy with the butter. Okie dokes. Your temperature should be relatively highish. Then you're going to add about 2 tablespoons of olive oil. And then you should go about adding your half glass of white wine. Let this evaporate, so a nice high heat so the wine can be evaporated. Once your wine has mostly evaporated, you can now go about adding half a cup of your stock broth at a time to your rice, stirring it in slowly. As it gets absorbed, continuously keep adding half a cup. I'm just going to use a soup ladle and eyeball it. process should take about 20 minutes. So as you can see, look, the first ladle of stock has been quite nicely absorbed. Now we go for the second. And continue slowly like this, stirring your rice, caring for it as you progress. It is a little bit tedious, and you do need to stay over your pot because you don't want to risk your rice scorching on the bottom. While you're waiting for your rice to absorb the ladles of stock, you can also then use this time to puree your beetroot into a nice, very smooth puree. As I mentioned, mine is already cooked. It was a salad beetroot whole that I used. I've used 3 small pieces. Remember, when working with beetroot, to be extremely careful because it stains. Don't forget about your risotto on the pot, otherwise it will scorch. This is a lovely dish for a cold winter night because it's quite heavy and comforting and warm. When your risotto has about 5 minutes left of cooking time, you can start to melt your gorgonzola. Do this also over a low heat, and it should just start to melt slowly, and also just keep on stirring it. You can see our gorgonzola has started to slowly melt. Look at the nice liquid it forms. Your cheese should be nice and smooth once it's all melted, and we want it to have quite a runny consistency. If it does not, if your gorgonzola that you've bought has more of a thicker, harder consistency once melted, you can add a bit of cream slowly to make it a lovely, nice, smooth, almost like a sauce. Once your rice is cooked, now for the fun part. We're going to add our pureed beetroot to our rice, and it should make it a beautiful violet color. Let's see how it turns out. I'm a little bit nervous actually. The magic is happening. Look at this. Add the remaining 3 tablespoons of butter to the rice and stir it all in together. This is a very good arm workout. Look at the beautiful color of the risotto. You can season your risotto, but warning, the broth or stock is very salty. So in this case, I have absolutely no necessity to add salt to mine. You might want to add some nice freshly ground black pepper. Look at our beautiful gorgonzola. This is just gorgonzola melted. I have added nothing to this. And I'm going to use this to gently pour over the top of my risotto. You can be as creative with this as you want. You need a bit more than that. Oh Lord, I come in. Something cute you can do is pour some of your gorgonzola into a little pouring jug, and the guests themselves can garnish their own risotto.
Non più tra i farfalloni amoroso, notte e giorno di torno girano, delle belle turbando al riposo, Narcisetto Adolcino d'amor. Delle belle turbando al riposo, Narcisette, toi dolcino d'amore.